Welcome to the Daily Driven Podcast, where we talk about the trials and tribulations of running a small business.
Join us week over week while we talk about the different challenges we're facing, the wins we've had, and how we get through it.
And we'll keep you up to speed on all the progress we're making towards our company vision.
So if you're a small business owner yourself, join us for the ride.
Car.
Such a good color.
Yeah, I like the interior too.
I know. He didn't care what type of window tint he got as long as it provided some privacy and people could still see the interior color. And I was like, oh yeah, I got you, man.
So what do we go with, 30?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
30 all around.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. You'll still be able to see in there and it'll still have some privacy, so that's good.
Yeah. For those of you who can't see it, next to us is a Isles of Man Green BMW M3 Comp that just came in with this crazy orange interior. It looks fantastic.
It's perfect.
Chef's kiss.
Yes, it's beautiful.
What do the kids say?
What do the kids say?
It's on fleek.
It's on fleek.
Or it's got drip.
I guess they say that, yeah.
You could call it the Rizzler.
My daughter would have a field day with this.
Oh, Jesus. That'll be one of the clips.
That's great. I love it. Oh, no.
Oh, that's okay. It's 8 o'clock. It's our start time.
All right.
Well, so what are we doing here today, Brad?
Well, I thought it would be an interesting idea for people to see what it takes to run a business like this, and the good, bad, and the ugly, right? Because there's a lot of ugly. There really is.
There is. Yeah.
I think it's interesting for people. I think it's interesting for people to kind of get a look behind the curtain.
Yeah.
We all see what we see on social media, and we see everything from the outside, and we talk to people, and we talk about the business. We see the cars, and everything looks hunky dory, but there's a lot of challenges along the way. And
oh yeah,
as the business progresses and we continue to grow, and it's a whole nother set of pain points and learning opportunities. So the idea is really just, we're about to make a big leap here in our business, and I thought it would be cool to take everyone out there on YouTube along for the ride so you can watch what happens. But today's really about, how we got here and all the trials and tribulations that we experienced along the way. And then every week or month, we're going to do an update on, what we've experienced, some of the things we've been challenged with, and how we overcame those challenges.
Oh yeah.
Mindset is critical. We'll talk about mindset.
That's a big one.
I think all the things that are involved in success.
Yeah, I mean, we want to look at this from not just talking through the philosophy or the attitude, but looking at things like culture, how that affects your team and your productivity, and things like cash flow. Kind of getting into some nitty gritty things that kind of focus on the business as a whole, not just one particular facet.
Yeah, some of you might find it interesting, and others may not. But it's always been interesting to me. It has, and I think for you too. You don't come from a business background, but you've been deeply involved in the business, and you've learned so much along the way. And when you take a peek behind that curtain, you're like, wow, there's so much stuff. It just keeps going. It doesn't stop. It's insanity half the time.
If you're a person who gets bored easily doing one thing, that's probably the right thing to do, is to jump into a small family-owned business and to put your hands as far down it as you can, because you'll learn something new every week.
Yeah, it's a constant battle is the best way to put it. And the wins are so great though. I mean, it's not like it's just terrible the whole time. The wins and the benefits that we get out of the experiences are wonderful. So I think that part's what makes it exciting, kind of keeps you going.
I mean, you've been open this long, so there's got to be something that keeps you going.
Yeah, right? I mean, we're going into our 9th year now, so it's been a good run. And I was thinking about this the other day. When we started the business, we were obviously the first couple years, 3 years is probably just grinding. You're just trying to get everything off the ground, and then almost right at that point, COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then after that, we went through COVID and came back from COVID, and then it was a whole nother set of problems with, just trying to figure out how you scale a team and what the pay structure needs to look like and how you manage your inventory and how you deal with your real estate and all of that stuff started. You had to figure that out. That was a difficult year. And then right after that, we had the elections, which just tanked almost every business I know had a really hard time last year. So
it seemed to be the sentiment.
You're going through these like really difficult times and trying to figure out am I going to survive this? Like, how are we going to get through this situation? And I think that's just business. I think there's always going to be a struggle of some kind or some big challenge that you have to get through. And we've made it through all of them. And, I think that's why we're here today. It's like, how did we even do that? How did we get through that? Like, is that an interesting conversation? I think it is.
It should be. I mean, it's going to be fun for two reasons. It's you either get to watch us take a bunch of punches in the face repeatedly, or you get to learn how we took all those punches in the face and stuck around.
Yeah.
So I think both of those sides are pretty fascinating.
I think, to me, stoicism has been a pretty big impact. You and I have talked about that for a couple of years about, stoicism and what it really means. And
it's our whole mug theme
it
today.
is. These are Marcus Aurelius.
I think it's all of them.
Everything. It's great. But I think that, the obstacle is the way is the one that we've been talking a lot about lately. Is like you have to go through the obstacle to get to the reward. And that's kind of stayed in my head constantly. The more difficult it is, the bigger the reward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big part. Well, we had a pretty big reward this past week, I'd say.
We did.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, since starting the business, my biggest goal was to own commercial real estate, to have a piece of property to put the business in that was my own creation, a building that I've had in my head for years. And obviously it's tweaked and changed along the way as we've, worked through different, we've been in different buildings. So we've been in different shop spaces and we've learned different obstacles and different efficiencies, right?
Yeah.
And I think that now what has happened is that we finally closed on our property and now we're going to build our own built to spec for our business and for the automotive industry, a new space. And that's very exciting to me because it's like the next generation of our business.
Oh yeah.
And it's going to be a huge impact on, I hope it has an impact on the industry as a whole, because I think that, when you start out, for me, I've always had big visions. That's just the way I've always thought. But when you start out, you think this big, right? And as you grow, you start thinking a little bit bigger. And you always hear a lot of the successful entrepreneurs on social media, they're like, you have to think bigger. You have to think bigger. You have to think bigger. And, I've been fortunate enough to have some people in my life that have taught me how to think way bigger, much, much bigger than I ever possibly imagined. And even this building, just one building to me is like, oh my God, that's just insanity. Like that's huge. And leading up to it, I was terrified. In fact, the night before the close, I couldn't sleep. Like I was just almost sweating in my bed because I was so worried and fearful. And but now that we're closed, I'm like, I'm ready to go buy another one. Let's do it.
Yeah.
This is great.
Start again.
There's no reason we can't do 10 of these things.
Yeah, I think that was when I first got brought on by you. That was one of the most interesting remarks you would make to me was the why not.
Yeah.
Right? We'd have these conversations about these huge ideas. And my first thought is, well, I probably couldn't do that. And your response would be, why not?
Yeah.
Why not, right?
Why not? There's no reason.
Yeah.
If you want it, you can go get it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I also want people to take from this is like, especially the people that are just starting out. It doesn't have to be this business. It's any business. Mm-hmm. There's opportunity out there, and mindset is key because you can look at one situation many different ways, and you think that, I mean, even along the journey of purchasing this building, there were multiple times, I'll tell you, when I was ready to just throw in the towel. I was like, can't do it. I'm not. This is not something that I can handle. It's too much, or I don't feel like I'm making the progress I want to make. So I'm going to give up. Like, those words have been in my head multiple times. This is just the purchasing of the building path, right? But the mindset and having the courage and the confidence to say, no, I can do it. I am going to do it, I think is where you win the battle.
Yeah.
I think that's where you get the perseverance. That's where you get the drive and the determination to go for it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not going to be able to stick with it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It goes back to that why not? All the knots are the things that can help you discover the pathway to get there. Like buying a building. You might say, why not? Well, first we need funding, or we need, X, Y, Z. But then that's your roadmap right there.
Yeah.
Now you know everything you need to do to get there.
Exactly.
And so you could do two things when you get to those blocks. You can say, oh, I'm going to turn around and go home. This is too hard. Or you can say, oh, well, this is another part of my roadmap. Just another thing I got to go to get through.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I think it's also important that and this is something that I've recently discovered, is you have to have your map. Like, where are you going? And it has to be like out there. Mm-hmm. You can't just say, oh, well, next week or next month or next year. What's 10 years? What's 5 years? Mm-hmm. Like, what's way out there? Where are you aiming to go? What are you aiming to accomplish? Because that becomes your North Star. Once you have your North Star, that makes it so much easier to get through the difficulties of the day, or the difficulties of the week, or the difficulties of the month, because you're focused on 5 years, 10 years, or 10x your growth, right? 10x your number that you're aiming for. So if you start thinking like that, it changes the day to day, and you're like, and you and I have seen it, like, as we've gone through it, you've seen me completely stressed out and worried, and I've seen you completely stressed out and worried. But the more times we've gone through it, and then the more we start focusing on the North Star, the more we keep saying, this is just an obstacle.
Yeah.
This is just a challenge.
Nothing we can't get through.
That's right. We'll figure it out. It's just a bump in the road. And, we just have to go through it. And whatever the outcome is what the outcome is. But remaining calm, which is really hard to do.
It is. Yeah.
So whatever, because you have the weight on your shoulders, and you're super stressed out.
But that's the only thing you can control in that moment.
Yeah, you're right. It is. And so how you respond to the situations is critical. Mm-hmm. To your health. I mean, gosh, if you sit there and dwell on stuff, and you stress about it, I mean, there's a physical reaction that happens in your body. Cortisol raises, and that has a really negative effect on your physical health. And me, I'll be 50 in March.
Old man.
Which is a month away, and I start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be 50. Like, that's the other side of the hill, And I have to start taking care of myself physically. Mm-hmm. And stress is one of those things that I have to manage, because I want to live a long life, and I've got kids, and I've got visions, and I've got a passion for the future, and I want to see that happen. Like, I want to make that a reality, and I want to go through that. So part of that is personal health and self-care.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's hard to balance those two things too, because you have this long-term vision, right? But then every day you have fires that happen. Everywhere you look, at some points in your week or your month or your year, this past year especially, because things were so rough due to the elections and a couple other things that probably played a hand in it. It can get hard to balance those things. You're trying to think about, this faraway goal and keeping it on track while you're trying to dance around all these other fires and things happening. Mm-hmm. And then you have to juggle your own stress and managing yourself and keeping yourself healthy.
Yeah. It's
like, how do you do that?
Yeah. I to be honest, I don't even, sometimes I look at it and I go, I don't even know how I've been able to do that, because Me, I have two young kids. I've got one that's 10 and one that's 12. I've got a wife at home. I've got a business with employees and people to take care of. And, I've got myself that I have to take care of. And I've got a house that I have to take care of. And I've got a rental property that I have to take care of. And, I've got other family members that I need to spend time with. And you look at this list and you're like, how in the hell am I going to get all this shit done?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a way. But you have to, you have to spend time with your kids, and you have to spend time with your wife, and you have to take care of your home, and you have to take care of your business, and you have to take care of your employees, and you have to stay focused on your vision, and you have to take care of the fires that are in front of you. It's just the list just goes on and on and on and on. It's crazy. But I think that, there's a lot of good people out there in this industry specifically that I've been working with and talking to. And, one of them that I like a lot, and Ryan, Hare, if you're listening, and Jena, you guys are one of those people, and David Chuckman, you're another one. They talk a lot about just taking a bite of the elephant, one bite at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at the big problem and freak out. Just one bite at a time. That's how you have to tackle it. And if you can break it down to that simple format, it becomes a little bit easier. I say it's a little bit easier because you still know that all that stuff has to get done. But I mean, that's been kind of my saving grace, is just accept that there's a lot of stuff that has to get done and just take them one bite at a time and keep going.
Would you say it's the biggest lesson that you kind of learned out of this whole process the past year?
Oh, man. The biggest lesson? I don't think that's the biggest lesson. I think that there's been a lot of big lessons, to be honest. I mean, for me, the thing about a business that you'll realize if you're running a business is it will highlight all of your weaknesses.
Oh yeah.
It'll just put those things right in the spotlight. And we all have different weaknesses. Right. So I was thinking about this the other day, and it's, every business is going to operate differently. And even in this industry, I have friends that work at other shops. They kind of do contract work, and they're in a lot of different other shops, and they're like, man, yeah, every shop is different. None of them are the same. There's no consistency.
Yeah.
Even pay scales and the way the shop operates and the layout of the shop space, the way that they do the film, all of it is different. There's no consistency. And so that's when you realize, oh, well, that's because they're run by people, right? And there's no consistency in people.
Oh yeah, everybody's different.
So, for me, I think that, with having all of my weaknesses highlighted, those have been the biggest learning lessons for me. Like one of my weaknesses is, I don't like confrontation.
Yeah.
And it could be any confrontation, the dumbest stuff. Like, hey, I need to hold you accountable to doing something that you should have done.
Or even, hey, did you take my pen?
Yeah. It's so, and that has been something I've been pushing myself to do more of, because if you don't handle the issue, it just builds on itself and gets worse and worse and worse over time. And then you end up in this place where there's a lot of negative energy between you and that person. And whenever there's negative energy between me, the owner, and one of my employees, it'll go south, in 6 months, it could be 12 months. And the longer that period is, the more south it goes.
Yeah.
So I think one of my biggest learning lessons was there were employees that we've had that I actually had a lot of respect for, and I had good relationships with, and because of that behavior, those turn sour, and that makes me sad, because they're people that I thought were great people, and I look at it and I go, man, I fucked that up, I messed up there, and it is what it is. I can't change the past. I can only learn from it and move forward and change the way that I deal with people now, right? I think, the other thing that I've learned is thinking, again, going back to the thinking bigger thing, thinking bigger has helped me, I guess, have more confidence in, well, going back to the accountability thing, right? And holding people, it's given me the confidence and the courage and the strength to hold people accountable, because there is a big vision, and you are a part of that as an employee here, as a team member. You are a part of that vision. Like, we are on this path together. And when you look at it like that, it makes it a lot easier to hold everybody accountable. Because, well, so here's another thing. You have to make sure everybody understands the vision. So that was another learning lesson, is that making sure that everybody understands the vision. And if they understand the vision, they see the vision, you have these core values in place, and everybody knows what we're like, our biggest focus. And since the beginning of starting this business, and I've always just believed that the customer experience is the most important thing.
Oh yeah.
And the customer experience is a lot of things. It's not one thing, it's 50, 60 things, right? Everything that the customer experiences is part of the customer experience. Well, if you have the vision laid out, and for us, going back to the customer experience thing, it's the customer experience is the most important thing. We ladder everything down to that. When it comes to accountability and your team understanding that that's part of your vision, well, now it's like, hey man, remember, we're focused on the customer experience. So does this give the customer the best experience? And if the answer is no, then you don't do it. If the answer is yes, then you do it, right?
Yeah.
So I think a big lesson for me this year was just, okay, if you have clarity, it makes it easier for you to do what you fear doing, right? Which is confrontation, which is not really ever confrontation. I don't think I've ever had there have probably been 3 times in the whole time I've been in this business where there's been like true confrontation. Everything else is just a conversation. So it makes it easier to have those kinds of conversations and hold people accountable. For me inside, right? I don't have that fear goes away. So that is an interesting learning lesson, to have clarity, to have a vision, to have direction, to have core values. And again, Ryan and Jena, they're 2 people that have helped me figure that out, right?
Oh, yeah.
That they're just, hey, you don't have that? Well, you have to have that. Like, that's your direction.
It's your number one thing to do today.
So I would say that's a pretty big learning lesson this year. I think the other big learning lesson this year was just learning how to just stay calm in the moments that stress you the most, because and some of you newer business owners probably will feel this. The weight of all the things gets so heavy that you just want to crumble. I mean, there have been many times, when people say blood, sweat, and tears is what it takes to run a business.
Yeah.
That's a literal thing.
It is.
I mean, that is a literal thing, because I have been in tears. I have
sweat and blood.
I have no shame to say that I have been in tears in the corner of my room, just like, how the hell am I going to do this? How the hell am I going to keep going? The sweat, I mean, plenty of sweat, plenty of blood. I've cut myself multiple times here, and I've sweat my ass off in this shop multiple times. I've had many, 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 many overnight hours. My wife has had overnight hours. We've put in the work.
Yeah.
And when you're going through that, the weight of it just feels so heavy, and you can just let it destroy you. There was a period, I think this would have been 2 years ago, I was 45 pounds overweight.
Oh man.
I mean, and you remember that. I lost 45 pounds.
That was right before you jumped into the 75 hard.
Yeah. So Andy Frisella, another person that I have a lot of admiration for, he has a program called 75 Hard, and this is not an advertisement. Actually, 75 Hard's free. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
There's no benefit to Andy. He wants to help people get better, and he believes that to make society better, we all have to live life with excellence as our focus, right? If we live life with excellence, society gets better. And I love that. I think that's 100% accurate, right? Well, 75 Hard program helps you live life with excellence, right? It's what it's focused on doing. Well, part of the benefits of 75 hard is you just get in better shape, right? You lose weight.
a lot of weight.
And I lost 45 pounds. And that was put on because of all the stress and all the, you know, just the worry and not taking care of myself. And so I think that, you know, focusing on being excellent and making yourself better is a very critical thing.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest lesson I had to learn over the past 2 years too.
Was focusing on excellence, or
The learning how to control your emotional state
yeah,
and like staying calm, and because it's stressful, and I'm not bearing as much of it as you are.
right.
I would say that this was definitely the most stressful year of my life, because
Same.
I was right there in it with you,
Same.
you know, and the stakes get high, and
Yeah.
it can be so easy to lose it and just ball up on the floor, or you know, have a reaction, and it's a hard thing to learn how to like calm yourself down, control things, like focus back in, and then put all that fear in the background and go perform with excellence.
Do you think that's been your biggest learning lesson
I think so.
this year?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that I've seen that in you. I would say that I've seen you do a much better job of keeping yourself even in the most challenging times. I mean, I can read your face and you can read my face, you know, whenever we're going through it. But at the same time, you know, there's a big improvement on you being able to just keep your cool and you know, stay level.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was not always like that. You know, I could fly off the handle, or, you know, just get so overwhelmed so easily.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's like, you can't let that happen though. You know, the second that you fly off the handle like that, you lost it.
Yeah.
And that can't happen. So you got to make sure that you don't do that.
And I mean, we're all people.
Yeah.
Right?
So
that's the thing. We all have our weaknesses and our challenges. And I think that, just society in general, if we could get a better handle on just accepting that everybody's a person, right? And we all have our own backgrounds and we have our own challenges, and nobody's perfect. And I mean, nobody's going to be you, right? So to have the expectation that someone is going to do the things that you want them to do, and then to judge them if they're not, is really not a fair thing.
No.
Because you don't know how they grew up, what their background is, what's happened to them,
what's happening to them,
what's happening exactly, what is happening to them today, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I do believe in you know, living a life of grace and giving people grace, but holding them accountable. You know, if it's disrespectful behavior, then hey, that's disrespectful, you know, or that's not okay, or we don't treat people that way. You know, and I think that as long as you can do that, but also say, but why? Like, help me understand why that's happening.
Yeah. What's going on?
So I think that, you know, that's a very important thing to have as a leader. I think it's a very important thing to have as a person.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that you've done, like I said, you've done a good job of that. You know, with me, even, you know, being in the same office, you know, you're like, hey, dude, what's up? You know, what's going on? You know, and then we vent.
Yeah. I say that's a pretty critical thing as you're growing a business, scaling a business. You know, you got to have people to lean on.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to be careful with that sometimes, because you can't put it all on one person too. But, you know, you need to have an open channel with a couple people at that head of the snake, you know, to be able to talk out problems and issues and work through things, and have enough confidence in that relationship there to be able to vent it out and then have a constructive conversation at that point.
Yeah.
Because that's like, sometimes you'll just get in and it's like the craziest fire has started, the craziest shit is going on, and it's like, what do we even do here?
Yeah. I don't even know what to do. That's a very common response to a lot of the stuff that we've been going through. Especially, I mean, last year
We had some really unusual problems.
Yeah. It was definitely the hardest year
Yeah.
that I've had in the business was last year. And I think that I know a lot of business owners that have said the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
So no idea what that was about. I don't want to point the finger at any one specific thing.
Yeah.
But there were businesses that failed last year. There were businesses that shuttered last year. We were on the verge of having to go down that route, and I've been fortunate enough to, one, have the support network that I do, and have the capital that I was able to access to keep it alive. But man, it was tough, and there were literally times when I'm like, is this even worth it? Why am I even doing this? Because there's no benefit. It's just all stress, all worry. And I think that businesses go through these cycles, they go through these stages, and they go through these sets of problems. And no matter what you see on social media and how good a business looks, it's crazy behind the curtain.
Oh yeah.
And I speak from experience, number one, and I speak from knowledge of other business owners, number two. They all kind of say the same thing, and it takes a long time to get that organized structure. And I think that I was thinking about this last night, like, who are the people that are going to do the best at business? And it's funny, I think it's the people that have gone through the most difficult stuff in their lives. Because if you've been in the military, you're probably going to do great because they put you through the hardest stuff intentionally, right? They teach you how to go through adversity and how to persevere and how to live a life of excellence. And because you have to in the military.
Oh yeah.
You can't show up late. If there's a war.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be exactly on time. You have to do exactly your job, because if you don't, there are lives at stake.
There are.
Right. So I think if you've been in the military, you're probably going to do great at running a business. I think that if you've had a lot of difficulty and challenge in your life, you're probably going to do great at running a business. And to be honest, I think if you're really, 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 really smart, a lot of those people have a hard time starting a business because they see all the things that could be.
They see the whole elephant.
And they freak out.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, nope, not going to do that. And, I think that I didn't go to college, so I'm not the smartest, most educated guy. So I probably take a lot of what some smart people will call, that's a dumb risk, right? Why would you do that? Well, you have to be willing to take those risks if you want to have the success. So I think about the kind of people that are good business owners, or that could be good business owners, and they have to have that ability to persevere through those times.
Yeah.
Because that's the most important part. Once you get to, I feel like it's a 10-year mark. When you get to the 10-year mark, you've kind of gone through all the shit, all the stuff that is difficult, and you're like, okay, I've seen that problem, I've seen that problem, I've seen that problem, I've seen this problem, I've seen this problem. So I kind of know what to do in all these situations. And as you go through the situations, you're starting to create processes, and you're starting to create ways that you handle those situations so that they don't happen again, or that you just know what to do when you get in them. And so I think that if you can persevere for that decade, God, you got to give 10 years to see the light.
That's a good starting commitment, though.
It is. And so that gives you, you're right.
Yeah. You think this is going to be a 10-year shit slog. I'm just signing up for that right now. Yeah, so I know that it's going to be that.
I think that's what you have to do.
We had this conversation just last week even. It's like, we're going to sign up for 6 months of hell.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's going to take to get everything fixed and get everything righted and tightened back up and locked in, and it's going to suck.
And we just hope nobody throws a bomb in that, right in the middle.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it just seems to go with business. You get down this path, and then boom, some bomb drops, right? And then, oh God, okay, we got to figure that out too. Or, oh my God, it feels like we're not going to make it, and then you have some success.
Yeah.
And usually it kind of goes like this, and then it goes up again, then it goes up, and then it goes down, then it goes way up, So I feel like sometimes you even have to take steps backwards.
Oh yeah.
In order to take big steps forward.
That's kind of what we had to do this past month.
I agree. I think last year.
Last
year we took like many steps backwards. But I mean, even as we were going through to get this new building, our banker is like looking at our revenue and they're like, hey, it looks like you're going to make less revenue this year. And I'm like, yeah, we are. Said, well, why is that? And so I'm like, well, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. And here's the vision for the future. And even as a banker, who they're typically very conservative, is like, okay, so this is you taking a couple steps backwards so you can make a big leap forward.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly right. And so that's what we did. We what did we lose? We lost what, a 35% revenue reduction year over year.
That's pretty big.
From 23 to 24.
Oof.
So you think about that. God, how do you drop 30% revenue?
Yeah.
Well, you shrink down, but here's the kicker: is profit was the same on a 30% revenue number. So you're like, okay, well now you think there's the opportunity, there's the growth, right? Because now you get back up to that revenue and you just doubled your profit at the same revenue.
Oh yeah.
So I think that as you own a business, nothing is going to go the way you plan it. I will tell you that right now. If you lay out a business plan and you have a financial plan and you think you've got all the numbers figured out, you don't. You don't. You get curveballs all on the way.
Yeah. Well, right? if you do though, you need to like box that thing up all nice and neat, and then just sell it repeatedly. And I mean, yeah,
it's crazy. And so I think it's so funny. My older brother, was pretty heavily involved in the early stages of the business, and we would sit in my garage and just talk through ideas, for hours and hours and hours. And we had put a plan together, and one of the things he said, he's like, well, whatever you think your expenses are, double it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no way, that's not right. There's no way the expenses would be double. You know what? They were more than double.
Yeah, it's triple, right? Quadruple.
So, I think that's the thing you have to realize with business is that, you're gonna get a lot of curveballs along the way, and you have to go through that to grow. You have to go through the adversity to learn. You have to go through the challenge to create the process. And I think that's what you have to realize when you start a business is that nothing is going to go the way you expect. But the reason that you have to go through those things is to get where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like the biggest lie that you can tell yourself when you're going through all that too is it's going to get better, because it's not. And that sounds mean, but subjectively, life does not get better. You have ups and downs, and you're going to have the same challenges, different challenges, new challenges. But the one thing that does get better is you.
Yeah.
And that's
I was about to say, I'm going to argue with you on that.
That's what you have to focus on. It doesn't get better, you get better. And you need to make sure you focus on that. Because if you're constantly focusing on you're not thinking about how you're getting better. You're just beating yourself up. You're looking for it to be better. But if you build yourself up, instead of beat yourself up, you make yourself better, then it gets better. Because all those challenges are the same, but you handle them differently. You handle them better. You can work through them. You're more confident when you approach them. And that, as a whole, makes everything better.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you have to be constantly working on yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And you've been doing this a lot lately with me, is like reading books, even if it's just an audiobook. Yeah. You can learn so much. And there are some fantastic books out there, that you can, and, we could put a link to a lot of the books that I recommend, but you have to be constantly educating yourself. You have to be constantly pushing yourself. You have to constantly go outside your comfort zone and do the next thing. And that's the part, where it's hard. It's not easy. It doesn't get better. But then when you get through it and you look backwards and you go, wow, look where we've come, and this is cool. I can't believe that we've been able to, and I mean, even this morning I stopped by the location where the building is, and then I got out of my car and I'm going, holy crap.
Yeah,
I
this is
bought
mine.
this. I bought this place. Like, this is insane. This is so crazy to me. And that is a dream. Like, that is a vision that I had 9 years ago, right? And I'm looking up, going, I'm here. This is so crazy. But you know what that means?
So we got a lot of work.
Now I get to experience even more difficult problems. I got to go through more shit, and I got to have more stress and more worry. But
It's like, have you ever built a building before?
nope.
Well, we're about to.
We are. And I'm grateful again for the people in my life. And, Mark is one of the guys that I'm partnering up with on this, and he has been an absolute amazing guy to help get to this point.
Mark was one of the first people who introduced us to Stoicism too. Just to help us get through all this shit.
That's right. I remember that because I was telling him how stressed I was, and he recommended that I start learning about Stoicism. And for me, that came very natural. My mom always said, you're such a stoic person, and I've kind of always naturally been that way, but I never put it into practice when I needed it. And when he had shown that to me, I was like, wow, this is 100% accurate, But he's this is what kind of the recommendation is, you have to find people that have the knowledge and the information that you need to get to your goal, because you're not going to know it all. You're not going to have it all. So you have to go seek it. And so even in books, but I've found people are kind of what make the world go round, obviously, right? And I think that the people that you center yourself around are going to be the ways that you get to where you want to be, right? And, we are very fortunate in this business to deal with a lot of high net worth individuals, and high net worth individuals, they just think differently, and you've got to be willing to go and out there and develop relationships with these people. And most of them, they want to help. Like, they love educating other people, right? Because they want other people to succeed, and they those people, that mindset are. I'll give you an example. There are several businesses just like ours in Austin, in this city, and there are several of those businesses that I have good relationships with, and I cheer them on when they succeed. I'm not like, I'm going to crush you and I'm going to put you out of business. No way, dude. Business is freaking hard.
It is.
Why would I wish that on anybody? No. I want to see you succeed. And that's how high net worth individuals think. They cheer for other businesses and their friends to their successes and, all that stuff. And I think that if you put yourself around those people, you develop that mindset like them, you become better and you accomplish bigger things.
You do.
And someone like Mark, like I'm talking about, has been one of those people in my life where he's helped me think bigger, shown me the path, and, helped us figure out how to get this real estate thing going in a very smart, financial success focused way. Like, you have to know that stuff. And I knew none of it. Well, getting to this point today of actually owning the building, and I had no idea it was that much work just to get to the closing table. But
almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. I would say a year and a half of working on this thing, and, almost losing it multiple times. And, putting in a lot of time and a lot of energy. Without him and his group and them, guiding the process and creating all the things that they created to make the deal happen, we probably wouldn't be here today. So, that's the point, is you have to put yourself around and in front of and develop relationships with people that you aspire to be like, or that want to help get you to the next level, to give you the knowledge and the information that you need.
I agree with you there. Also, just having people that you can check in on throughout this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it'll give you so much peace of mind to reach out to a friend in a similar industry or even the same industry and just be like, are you dealing with this right now?
Yep.
This is like what I'm experiencing, and it sucks, or it's great, or, did you X, Y, and Z. Because otherwise you're just kind of stuck in a vacuum. You're like, you have no scope or knowledge, and you could be focusing on the wrong thing if it's you might have a challenge that you think is isolated to your business and it's actually industry-wide.
Sure. Yeah. And if you don't have those relationships, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with that. I mean, there have been many times, especially last year, where we're reaching out to our competitors in this city and saying, hey, what are you seeing? Because this is what we're seeing, and to get the temperature check is like, oh no, we're seeing exactly the same thing. You're like, okay, good. It's not me. It's not anything I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
It's just timing or the industry or the economy or whatever.
X, Y, and Z.
It could be anything.
The weather.
The weather. Yeah.
Yeah.
That even changes with business. But
I remember there was a really specific moment in this past year. I think it was right around August, middle August, late January or July, sorry. And it was just a rough 3 weeks for us.
mm-hmm.
And it was super unnatural. Normally that period of time is like the business is booming, people are buying cars, a lot of stuff is happening, and it's all good stuff. But this was just like an immediate stop.
Yeah.
And so, we're pulling the different levers that we have, trying to figure out how we can adapt, how we can change it, how we can raise the demand for our own services and get people in the shop, because it was something we'd never seen at that time of year before. And I remember at the end of it, I think we were talking to Jason over at Sunbusters.
Mm-hmm.
And something came up about that period, and he goes, yeah, that was weird. That happened to me too.
Yeah.
And we were like, he was like, I thought it was just me. And we were like, we thought it was just us.
Yep. I remember that.
Like, well, maybe we should have checked in about that.
Yeah. I think it helps a ton. So I would suggest that whatever business you're in is that you develop a peer group that can help you have conversations like that.
Oh yeah.
Because it sounds weird that it gives you peace of mind, but it does. I mean, you're still in the shitstorm.
Oh yeah.
You're still
gotta fix it.
Still trying to deal with the issue, but at least you're like, hey, at least I'm not alone. At least I'm not the only one. And so I think that, that's one thing that I think we've done a very good job of. And it's something I deeply believe in having relationships. Again, back to relationships and the people that you surround yourself with, right, can help you succeed.
Oh yeah. I think, at the end of the day, that's kind of the only thing that you can really hold. It's the relationships with your clients. It's the relationships with your team. It's the relationships with the businesses around you. All the people, that's the one thing that you have to hold. It goes back to the beginning when we were talking about, you have your kids that you have to spend time with. You have your business you have to spend time with. Your wife, your in-laws, your family. You have to put time into your rental property and all these other things. And it's like, how do you deal with all of that? And the truth of it is you just have to build these good, genuine relationships.
Oh yeah.
And it's through honest transparency where you can sit down and say, look, I can't this week. I need help, from X, Y, and Z. And you can lean on those relationships and they will lean on you. And it's kind of this necessary give and take. But if you isolate yourself, you put yourself in the vacuum, if you don't put the time into those things, then you're going to have bad customer experiences. You're going to have a team that's disjointed and a culture that's not what it should be, for your business.
Yeah.
Your family's going to suffer, and at the end of the day, you're not going to have anything to really lean on and help you get through those moments of that tension and stress,
I agree. And look, I would say that don't do the surface level bullshit relationships. Real relationships, like real friends, like people that you would go have a burger with or, have a beer with, and you like get to know them and become friends. Like so many people today are like, hey, can I borrow some time and get some information from you? And then they disappear.
Yeah.
Not that. That's not going to help you at all. I have relationships with people that some of them for 20 plus years that are deep, genuine, hey, I love you, man. like that level of relationships. That's what you want to aspire to get to, is genuine, authentic relationships with people. And, so many of our clients here, we have those relationships with our customers. I deeply believe in having those kind of good relationships with the people.
Oh, yeah.
Because I get personal joy out of it. I love learning about people and getting to know people.
It's a lot funner that way.
It really is, And then the cool part is, if you just think about doing that with your customers, right? When something comes up, because shit's going to go wrong. It always does, in business, things go wrong, right? Something breaks on a car, or, something gets scratched or whatever, because this is a human process and nothing is perfect. If you have that relationship, it's a lot easier to handle those kind of problems and those kind of issues, And I think that if you can focus on trying to do that with all of your customers and the people in your life, and make a real effort to have the relationship and keep the relationship strong. It takes effort. It's like a marriage, right? You can't just be married and not pay attention to your partner. You have to pay attention to your partner, right? You have to have conversations with them, and you have to, talk through things and spend time together and all that. So I think that you have to do that with your customers too, so that you can get through the difficult times and the challenges a lot easier.
Yeah.
Right. I think that you have to do that with the friends in your life, so that you have that support network and that support group that you can lean on when you need it, and they can lean on you when they need it. I've had plenty of friends lean on me and say, man, I just need someone to talk to, I don't know what to do, and I'm freaking out. And, it's like, all right, dude, let's go get a beer.
Yeah.
Let's just talk.
Let's go grab some coffee.
Sometimes it just helps to get it off your freaking chest. I feel so much better. I just got it all out, and
you and me talk about that. It's like some of the things around the business, there's no one else you could talk to.
No, because most people aren't business owners.
Yeah.
So who do you call when you're thinking like a business owner? You can't call, someone that has a job, because they're not going to get it. They're going to be like, well, why don't you just get a job? My mom has asked me that multiple times. Why don't you just get a job? Yeah. And I'm like, no, Mom. No, it's not
what it's about.
That's not where I'm going. That's not my vision. My vision, sometimes I think about how nice it would be to have a job, because it would be great to just have a nice paycheck coming in all the time, and none of the worries, and go home and, work 9 to 5, maybe a couple hours on the weekend, but
maybe coast every other week here and there,
It would be great. Yeah. But I don't think I would be fulfilled if I did that, because in my head, since I've been a kid, I've always wanted to have my own automotive shop where I get to look at beautiful cars every day. Like, that's just been my dream. And I have that dream now. It's a reality. And if it means that I got to go through some struggles and some challenges to have that dream, then so be it. And funny, so why did I want to have my own commercial building? I remember when I was 18 years old, there was a guy I lived with, and his dad let him borrow his car. And the car was I don't remember the year, but I think it was a 1990 Mercedes-Benz 500 SL AMG.
Oh, nice.
And the thing had just gobs of power for that time frame. He would just put the gas in, and the tires would just light up. And I was like, dude, this is so cool. And I think at that time it was like probably a $70,000 car, which was, again, this was in the 90s. So that was like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. What does your dad do? And he's like, well, he owns a couple of apartment complexes. I'm like, oh, so that's how you make money, right? Yeah. Is real estate. And so for years and years and years and years, I studied real estate, wanted to learn about real estate, read books about real estate. And Grant Cardone's another guy that I followed. I took all of his training courses and learned about commercial real estate and how you make money in commercial real estate. And then I'm like, okay, that's one of my goals, is to own commercial real estate. And my wife managed apartment complexes. She managed them from the ground up. Some of the big high rises downtown, she helped, get them started, and, from a hole in the ground to fully leased up. So she understands the backside of managing commercial real estate. And so I was like, all right, well, I want to own commercial real estate. That's always been a vision of mine since I was 19 years old. And I've always wanted to be around cars. And, that's my plan.
Gotta marry
and so
him.
a job isn't my plan. And so I'm just, got to go for my plan. That's how it is.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I think about too is like, how would I feel, if I gave it up? How would I feel if I just turned away from that? Said it was too much. Would I feel worse than I feel right now in this really stressful, hard moment? I would. So I'm not going to do that.
It's a good question.
Because it's not going to help me.
I like that.
Doing this, doing the hard thing, getting through it, that's what's actually going to help me. Turning around and walking away from it, that never has helped me.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I always think about in those moments.
It's interesting that you said that because I just asked myself that question like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Just give up. Throw in the towel. You're done. And then I'm like, well, what's that look like?
Yeah.
Then you go, oh my gosh, if I gave it up, I would have the biggest regrets in life. I would be so upset at myself for not carrying it all the way, because I was struggling in a problem or a challenge. So
yeah, there's this really interesting clip in a movie. I don't know what the name is, but it's got Daniel Radcliffe and they're ski jumpers, right? And he's from the UK and he's riding up the elevator to the large jump, and he's riding up with a Swedish man who's already won gold by this point. He's just doing the jump as a formality. And, the Swedish guy asks Daniel Radcliffe, he goes, you're not gonna place. And he goes, yeah, I know. And he's like, are you disappointed about that? And he goes, yeah, I'm pretty upset. And he goes, but you tried your hardest, right? And he said, yeah, but it wasn't enough. And he said, well, you get to go home knowing that you tried your hardest, saying that you did the best that you could. And you took your country pretty far in this. Like they've never gone that far.
Yeah.
And the Swedish guy looks at him and he goes, I might be placing gold, but I know I didn't try my hardest. I know I could do better, and I got to live with that. I have to go home with that.
Wow.
And that's like, to me, that always shows you got a lot of character. If you're not just paying attention to where you're placing in other people's worlds, but where are you personally placing yourself? Like, could you have done better? Could you have done more?
Yeah.
How do you carry yourself if you didn't? How do you change things in your life so that you can always put your best foot forward and do things with excellence?
So funny. That's back to 75 hard, right? The same thing we were just talking about. And it's funny. I with all the stuff that's been going on, just getting the building started, I've laid off working out, and I feel like shit about it. Like I beat myself up every day. Like, why aren't you going to the gym? What is wrong with you, right? And you start down that path of, what do they call it? Self-depreciation or something. Deprecation. Yeah. Like you do that. And the only way you get out of that is to do what you're supposed to do, which in my case is go to the fucking gym.
Yeah.
And keep working out so you don't end up 45 pounds overweight again. Yeah. Right. And so, personal excellence, I think is one of the most critical things, because if you're doing all that you can do, you are pushing yourself and, you're hitting all the buttons that you're supposed to hit, you feel like Superman. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're failing or if you're not at the level that you want to be at, but you're working and you're doing everything you can to get there. You still feel good about yourself because every day you're giving it your all. Yeah. You're focused on excellence, and you can feel good about that. You can feel calm and you're okay with it. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody who's going to watch this, or even if you are familiar with the old, it started as a comic strip originally in the Sunday papers, and then Adult Swim took it and turned it into a TV show called The Boondocks.
No.
Oh my God, it's hilarious. It's wildly inappropriate, so don't watch it with your kids. But there's this moment where one of the kids, he's sitting there and he asks his grandpa,
Granddad, what do you do when you can't do nothing, but there's nothing you can do?
You do what you can.
Simple.
Just if you done everything you could do, then just do what you can.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you have to do. And if you aren't doing what you can, you're not going to feel great about yourself.
Yeah.
It's just that's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's I always think about it as the end of the day conversation, right? Like when I get to the end of the day, when I go home at night, when my head hits the pillow, am I going to think back on that day and say, I did everything I could? Whether it worked out or not.
Yeah.
You know, you got to and I think about that every night. I take probably like 30 minutes.
I think focusing on excellence, having reflection on a daily basis is great. I mean, if you can do it daily, that's even more beneficial to you because you have better opportunity to improve the next day.
Yeah.
I think, focusing on your daily habits are going to be, the most important factor. Like, what are your daily habits? And, are they contributing to your success? There's a couple people on YouTube that I really, really like, and I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but, there's a lot of good information out there on, best things to do for daily practices and daily habits to keep you at your highest level. And then I'll admit I'm not perfect at all of those. There's a lot of things that
you're always going to miss some days. It just happens.
We have like these. All of us have these deeply ingrained bad habits, right? Things that we know we need to get good at, but they're so hard to get good at because and for me being almost 50, I've got some that are like 50-year-old habits that I have to try to change, and that is really difficult to try to like unwind, reform, and have things become a new habit when you're at my age. I think it's a lot easier when you're younger, like when you're your age.
Like when I'm,
So I think you just have to reflect and look at your daily habits and identify one or two that you could really focus on, and then really focus on those one or two. It's a lot harder when you're like, okay, there's 10 things I want to change about myself, and I'm going to focus on all 10. You'll probably fail. You can't change a whole bunch at once. You have to make these incremental changes with a lot of focus so that you can turn them into habits.
It's like picking a word for the year. Like we both do that.
Yeah. So my word for this year is discipline. Obviously, we're talking about it because I'm not going to the gym, right? I'm not disciplined going to the gym. Well, my word of the year, and it's with my kids too, and my wife and the household is like, hey, our word is discipline. We're going to be disciplined because I've got a younger, a 12-year-old that is interested in basketball, right? She loves it.
Yeah.
And I keep talking about how you have to be disciplined with your training. You have to be disciplined with your gameplay. You have to be disciplined with the way you think and what you do, right? You have to be disciplined on the daily decisions that you make even. Right? If you want to go all the way, which she, all the way for her right now is like, she's got her sights set on college basketball. And I'm like, okay, well, it's going to take you making really smart decisions and not making any dumb ones, because one of those could completely veer that off of course, right? And it's so interesting. Like my 10-year-old is like really showing a lot of interest in like art is her thing. Like I could see her just being like a graphic designer and an artist, and she loves to paint and draw. And she just, every book she buys is about art and how to draw things. And she's doing this painting birthday party where you paint a picture, right? They tell you how to paint it. And she says, Dad, it looks like it's going to be really hard. It looks like it's going to be a really big challenge for me to paint that picture. But I think that if I challenge myself, I'm going to get better. And I was like, you're 10.
That's insightful for a 10-year-old.
And you were telling me that. I'm so proud of you,
Yeah.
But that's the truth, right? You have to challenge your behavior. You have to challenge your habits. You have to challenge your behavior. You have to put yourself into the things that are difficult so that you can learn and grow.
Yeah.
And so I think that, those daily habits become really critical for you to focus in on. But, really zero in on being disciplined at the things that you want to improve. And it doesn't have to be 10 things at once. It could be, one or two, so you can really be laser focused on them.
Well, and that should be a good testament to like the environment that you've kind of built around them too. Is like, okay, I'm doing something right here. I've at least shown them that going through the hard thing is the right thing.
I agree. I do agree.
Handling it with grace and
I patted myself on the back for that one.
You kind of have to. It's
Good job, Dad. You did great.
Because you don't just lick that shit off a rock. You have to see it from your parents.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I have never taken for granted from my family. And me and my brother will talk about it over the phone or even in front of our parents. Sometimes they'll be like, we really lucked out.
Yeah.
We just had a really good dynamic at home. And, we had our issues, but the way that our parents dealt with us and put us into certain situations, it really kind of set us up to tackle some really challenging things early on.
Yeah, I agree. That's what happens as you grow up, right?
It is. Me and my brother, we're 10 years apart. And so sometimes he's a good road marker for myself. And, we both made really big life changes around 25, 26, 27. And, that was the same time he started his business and got into entrepreneurship. And, now he's going to be 37 this month and he owns 3 businesses.
Wow.
Yeah.
So great.
Which is crazy, and still finds time to try and start another one. He's looking into more things right now, but it's I see that and we both talk about it collectively and the different things that we're going through. And the one thing that we always go back to is our parents.
Yeah.
Because that's where we got it all from.
And not all of us are that lucky, right?
Yeah,
not
everybody
all of us
has
have
different things to combat and deal with at
Yeah,
home.
some of us went. I would say I had a terrible life. All of us had challenges when we were growing up. Some of us had more challenges than others, right? A lot of people grew up with nothing, right? Super poor. Didn't have a father in the house, and a mother that was stressed, and they didn't have food on their table. There were a lot of people that grew up like that, and it's harder. I think the further down that line you go, it's harder and harder to think bigger and to do bigger things.
Yeah.
But I think that if you have great parents, you're blessed, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't and you have children, you need to be the great parent. You need to set the example. And so for me, I didn't have a father, right? And my dad was completely absent. And so for me, it's really important that I'm a great dad because I know what it feels like to not have one.
Yeah.
And, and I think you're right. I think it is important for your children to understand that life's not easy.
Yeah.
And that you're not owed anything. You don't deserve anything. You earn what you get, what you want. Right, you don't get it handed to you.
You got to go out there and you got to get it,
and that comes with hard work, and that comes with dedication to going through the challenging things, and that comes with discipline, and that comes with thinking through the problems and having a network of people and people that you can count on, and there's a lot of moving parts to that. So, I look at some of the college basketball players that we're working with. And, my questions to them are always like, hey, how were your parents? Because you guys are playing D1 college basketball. Like they had to have been, big supporters. Well, guess what? They were. Mm-hmm. Their parents were super supportive and, helped them get everything that they needed to be successful. And they're very driven, powerful basketball players because of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that if you're a parent out there, you are going to be the reason your kid succeeds or fails. So keep that in mind and focus on being a great parent because they're everything. You are everything that they need.
Yeah, and speaking from the kid's perspective too, it's like it doesn't need to be the funding, for the dream. It doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be all that stuff. Money. It only needs to be the support. Because to get that from a parent is huge.
It's teaching kids mindset, right?
Yeah.
And it's back to what we've been talking about this whole time, right? You have to teach the kids the mindset.
Yeah. That's how you do it.
However they turn out is going to be what you taught them.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had so many different situations with my 12 and 10-year-old where they've thought through the problems and their answers or their responses or the behaviors. I'm like, wow. Good job. I wish I had that level of thinking when I was your age because I think I'd be way more successful. But you know what? I'm like, if you're that way today, what are you going to be in 10 years? That's, I don't know. That's the cool part of parenting when you watch them progress and get better and overcome challenges. And you know, my 12-year-old, for example, she started playing basketball 3 years ago. I mean, you remember when she first started, right? And
Yeah, I went to like her second game with you that time when we did that sponsorship event.
Yeah.
We weren't going to make it back in time, so I just went with you.
And she was very timid.
She almost didn't play that time.
Yeah, she refused. She was so scared. She didn't want to get on the court, but she had this like natural ability to play the game. And you know, one thing that I had told her was never let your fears squash your talents. Like that is, don't ever do that, right? If you've got a talent and you have a fear that's keeping that talent down, you need to just step over that fear. And so I made her write it out. You know, I will not let my fears crush my talent. I will not let my fears crush. And I was like, write that thing 20 times a day.
Say it out loud every morning.
Exactly. Look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that.
You gotta take that idea and put it into a physical space.
And so she did that for a week straight. And the next weekend, she went out there and fucking played basketball, you know, and you're like, you just gush with pride, you know, and you see that happen and you're like, man, that's so cool, you know, to see your child move to that level because of something that you taught them, right? And I would have only taught them that because I've learned it myself. You know, I've had plenty of fears trying to start this business and plenty of fears going through every level of this business. And I mean, shit, just last week I had fears buying a building, you know? It's like, you can't let the fear drive your decisions. That's the key right there, is that you have to like say, it's what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Well, the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to lose money. Well, it's just fucking money, dude. Like it sounds silly to say that. I know. Well, yeah, money is everything. It's how you live and survive. Yeah, it is. But what's really important is your health. What's really important is your friends and your family, and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So if you fall all the way down and you lose it all, I mean, hell, there's plenty of people that interview these business owners that they've lost everything 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And they've rebuilt it again.
You can even look at flagship brands, things that are megaliths in the world and are like renowned. And they've had other businesses come to help them out. What was it? Fiat with Ferrari.
Oh, yeah.
Kept them from going bankrupt.
Yep.
Or Porsche with, what was it? Audi or BMW.
Yeah.
There was another one there. And it's like, you know, these are brands that you would look at and you would never think that anything has ever gone wrong. But as they're building that momentum and they're
look at
pushing their
Apple.
flywheel.
I mean, Apple's a great example, right? Apple was damn near going under, right? Multiple times.
Yeah.
And then it just shifts, you know, it changes. So it's, at the end of the day, if you ask yourself what's the worst possible thing that's going to happen, and it's the answer is not I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Then you're probably okay. Just go for it. Especially if you're chasing a dream. You know, you can't let the fear stop you.
No.
That's a key component, I think, of a good mindset for a business owner.
Oh yeah.
Don't let the fear stop you. Just go fucking get it, man. Go get it. And if you got to go through some shit and you got to have some struggles and it's going to suck, well, just embrace the suck.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to a good transitional moment to the last part of the series, or the episode format that we're kind of moving through here, which is, how is it now?
How is it now?
You know, we just talked about going through a whole year of shit.
Yeah.
And we're on the back end of the week now, where we've gone out, we've bought this building, we've made this huge leap as a business. How is it now?
So I'm going to answer you today, how I feel today.
Yeah. You
know, tomorrow's a new day. And tomorrow could present a whole nother set of challenges, and I may have a completely different answer.
And we'll talk about that next week.
But now, at this exact moment, I feel a lot of peace.
Yeah,
I feel a lot of confidence, a lot of excitement.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that I don't feel like it's just me. I feel like it's permeated throughout throughout the team and throughout the business and all the people that I'm engaged with, I can just feel almost like the ground is rumbling. It's coming. Like the all the stuff that we've been working towards for the last 9 years is about to come to fruition.
I would say I feel a lot of excitement and a lot of pride.
Yeah.
It's like past. I've just not been on this ship for 2.5 years. I haven't seen the other 7.5.
Yeah.
Like that. I know about it, but I wasn't here for it. But I get to look around and say, I got to help push this in the right direction. I got to help be here. I got to help hold things together. And we've been talking about it for so long, and now we've finally made the first really big, meaningful step.
Yep.
And so it's exciting.
It is. And I think that, I have clarity.
Yeah.
That's something I don't think I have had for a long time. I've felt like I've been on a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
With literally no direction, going nowhere, just keep running on that wheel. But now, and it literally has not just come because we've closed on the building, but also because I actually took the time to, and I'll credit Ryan Hare for this again. He talks about this thing called the blue line theory, and the blue line is pretty smart, because you think about, if I'm going to go drive to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to just go get in my car and start driving. I'm going to plug it into Google Maps, and Google Maps is going to lay me out a blue line and say, okay, this is how you're going to go. Here's your path. And you're going all the way out there to LA, which is 20 something hours. I don't know how long it is, but let's say 20 hours. And if you follow that blue line, you're going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, that's a really genius way to position it as for a business, right? Well, we have to have a blue line theory for the business. So what is our blue line? Like, where are we fucking going? Like, that was like, I haven't laid that out for anybody. I haven't laid it out for myself. I haven't laid it out for my team. So it forced me to go and just sit and just like, let me just lay this whole thing out. Like, what is the next 10 years going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
What am I trying to accomplish here?
Well, and another thing we asked ourselves, and you specifically had to really dive into this, which was, what do we really want as a business?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What is it that we
really
want? Because we've had a couple different directions, but like, what do we personally want? What do we enjoy doing while we're here? Because you're gonna be here constantly. It's your business.
It's 10 more years of my life, and I think that question, you're right, because that's kind of where it all started. Because that question was, for the longest time, it's like, oh, let's just scale and make a lot of money. And I remember my good friend Coy, the guy's like a brother to me. I've known him for 20 plus years, and he's like, it's weird. He's younger than me, but he's just a genius, super smart guy, really good dude. Runs a very successful business. He is living his life. He is living his life, and I admire him so much. And so when I have things, I just go hang out with him. I talk to him, and I was telling him, we're going to grow this thing. We're going to make money, and I'm going to make this thing just a money machine. He's like, Brad, stop focusing on the money, man. It's not the money. You need to focus on the thing, because the thing will get you the money.
It will.
But stop focusing on the money. And I didn't grow up super wealthy, but I always wanted Porsches and Lamborghinis and all, nice houses and stuff like that. Now, I don't have to have those now. Like, I have tons of happiness with my family more than anything else. But I do want to make a good living, and I want my people to make a lot of money. I want everybody to have this path to success. But it got me thinking, well, what am I really passionate about? Why did I even start this fucking business? I looked up and I'm going, well, shoving cars out the door that doesn't make me happy. What does make me happy? Well, what makes me happy is putting like art into the cars, taking the time to, make that install just beautiful, making the paint look perfect and detailing the engine bay, like all that, just making every inch of the wheel, just perfection, like that's the stuff that I like. And I'm like, you know what? I bet my customers love that too. They would, the right kind of customers that I want appreciate the art that goes into the work. And so then I'm like, well, then let's just be artists.
Well, we saw a really quick change in the whole business, in the customers that we had, the leads that we brought in on the sales table. Like, it was startling how overnight it seemed
It was
like it
instant.
was. And because, we used to stress out about having to tell a customer his car was going to be a couple hours behind. And I mean, this blue Porsche over here, I had to tell the guy the other day, like, look, this is going to take a minute to work on this car because of some of the factors at play here. And he just said, that's fine. I'm not worried about it. Take as much time as you need because I want it done right, and I know that's what you'll do.
And I love that. and like, that's the customer that we want.
That's the customer that we want.
And that's the people that we are.
We
want to do it right. And so that got me excited.
Yeah.
And I remember that you brought that to my attention. I remember when we made that change, and I said, look, this is what we're about.
Yeah. I think the other really big thing too was, like, we also at that exact same time started talking about, we're a small business. We have a lot of freedoms that corporations and big business don't have. So it's like, give me a list of your selfish goals. And they don't even need to be about the business.
Yeah.
Like, one of yours was spending more time with your family and working with your daughter around basketball.
Yeah.
So we had clients that were UT basketball players. It's like, great, let's work out an agreement with them. Like, let's push that selfish goal into the business.
Yeah.
And that made a big difference too. And I think the more kind of like joy, the more, bits and pieces of yourself that you can tie into that plan, the better, because it makes you happier while you're in the slog and doing the work, because it's double fulfilling then.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it has definitely changed the perception of running a business.
Yeah.
By finding the things. And if you own a business, like, I think it's really important that you do that yourself. Like, what is it that brings me joy? Because this is my business, right? This is not someone else's business. I'm not running this for everybody else. This is my business, and I built this the way that I wanted it to be, right? And you have to get back to your core of what makes you happy, what brings you joy, right? And customers will see it. They'll see it one way or the other. If you're not doing what you're passionate about and not doing what the things that bring you joy, they're going to see it, and you'll attract the wrong customers, which we had. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we had the wrong customers because we were attracting the wrong type of people. And then you move to what does bring you joy and what is important to you. Guess what? You got the right customers.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, I do agree that was kind of the pivot that started this path, right? And then everything else fell into place, because it's like, okay, well, if that's what brings me joy and that's my vision for the company, what does it look like long term? Mm-hmm. What's the path to get to where we want to get? How do I incorporate my goals of having real estate in this vision as well? How do I incorporate this? I mean, I love marketing and branding and all that stuff too. I'm always working on that stuff. So how do I incorporate this brand vision into the story and what we're trying to do? And how do I incorporate, having people here that have the same mindset, that want to put the art into it, that have great attitudes, and that, love their friends and family, and that believe in making themselves better and becoming an excellent version of themselves. Those are all the things that I want to have in my business and that will bring me joy, So I think that all those things together, creating that clarity, and obviously having the closing on the building is a big point of joy too. So I think right now I'm just thrilled and excited, about what is coming for the future.
That's awesome, man.
And I'm at peace. I don't feel
there's no what ifs in the background.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, we know
there's clarity.
Will be things that come up. Like, we don't have to ask ourselves what if, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we also don't have to ask ourselves the what if about each other, because we know what's going to happen. We're going to do it. We're going to get through it. Nothing's going to stop it until we're dead.
I agree. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's it's going to be a fun ride. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Looking forward to getting punched in the face some more.
Yeah, exactly. looking forward to being Rocky Balboa.
Oh my God, man. Yeah. It'll be a good one.
It's great.